All right, so we got the confirmation. 2 people, business class from Washington, D.C. to Munich, Germany, 140,000 points and $120 US. Retail price, $11,500. Or if I was going to go to the Amex travel site or one of the bank sites, around 1.1 million points. So we just saved over 1 million points and over $11,000 if you were to compare to alternatives to book this. And this is the first leg of Bryn and I's adventure of going nomad abroad. So I'm shooting this right now here in Austin, Texas, and we are wrapping up a lease here. We've been in this apartment for almost a year and a half. I've been in Austin for 3 years. She's been here for 5. And in the fall of last year, we were talking and having this conversation around what we wanted 2025 to look like. And we weren't quite clear on exactly what we wanted. And in our relationship, we have this kind of standard, let's call it, where we say 10 out of 10 only, which means we're going to keep looking for different things for what we want in our life. It could be living, it could be anything else, career stuff, until we find the 10 out of 10, the thing that we really want that really lights us up. And we couldn't quite find it. And so we were talking, we're like, should we stay here? Should we sublease it for a bit and go to the, mountains for a little? And we're very fortunate to have these options and choices. And we've also made a lot of decisions to put ourselves in that position, and came out of nowhere. And this was not in the cards at all. But she was like, well, the only place I'd really want to give up our lease for is if we went to Europe or something. And I was like, should we do it? And she was like, let's go. So 24 hours later, we're sending in a notice to the apartment. We're going to Europe. And so, it's February right now. Our lease ends in a little over a month, and we will be starting off with a trip to Japan, for a ski mastermind that I host with a bunch of entrepreneurs. Coming back to the States for a little bit, I got a couple speaking events and masterminds. We're having a little engagement party, and then we are off to Europe for a few months. Now, I wanted to share a little bit of the backstory of how we kind of came to this decision and why we're so excited about the adventure ahead. Because for a lot of people, if they were in my shoes with where I am in terms of life and business and the financial stuff, they probably would be like, no, I'm just going to stick around and hunker down and build a business. But we've chosen a little bit of a different path that feels more congruent for us. So I want to share that with you and break down how we're getting around, where we're going, how we're going to book it, all the plans. We're bringing Wags. He looks like he's dead in the corner taking a little nap, and break that down for you. So let's dive in. So first off, if you're new to the channel, my name's Eli Vicenda, aka Eli the Travel Guy. I've been traveling the world for about 10 years, and my company helps mostly business owners maximize their points for bucket list trips. So points has been an obsession, a passion of mine, and I've personally leveraged points to save probably well in the millions of dollars on bucket list travel and extraordinary experiences. And it's really been this amazing vehicle for me to create unforgettable trips and amazing memories with people I love. And that's ultimately what this decision was about. We were thinking about the order of our life and the time to do different things. So there's this awesome book I talk a lot about called Die with Zero, which I'd really recommend checking out. And one of the key concepts here is that you can do a lot of different things with your life, but you need to get the order right. So right now in my business, it's probably not the best time to go abroad. If I just stayed focused and stayed in one spot, I could probably grow the business more. But that's not what I'm optimizing my life for. I'm optimizing my life for fulfillment, for amazing experiences. Business is still a part of it. It's not like it's travel instead of business. It's both. But the experiences, the adventure, the prioritization on creating memories together with Bryn before we have kids is the higher priority. So that's why for me, once we started thinking about this, it was kind of a no-brainer. Because if you think about it, right, for me, probably for you, as our careers evolve, we're probably always going to increasingly make more money. If there's no drastic change of events or something like that, you're probably going to continue to make more money as you get older. So the idea of prioritizing making money today instead of having a life experience that I can't get back in the future, it really doesn't make sense. Because right now, Bryn and I, we don't have kids. We have a lot of flexibility. We have a dog, and he's coming along for the adventure, so he's a part of the experience. But that gives us a lot of flexibility that we will not have back until maybe after our kids are through college or whatever happens if they go to college. Right, we can still travel with them. We can still create these awesome life experiences with kids, but it's going to definitely be different. It'll have more layers of decision and things to think about and a little bit more complexity. So now is really the time to do it. Now, how are we thinking about the logistics around this? Okay, because there's a lot of parts of the world. There's a lot of different experiences to have. And I have traveled to almost 50 countries. I've been through most major European countries at least twice, most of them, many of them 5 to 10 times, like Italy, Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, England. I've been to those places at least 8 times each, which is very cool, because I've been in the travel industry for so long. I've chosen to prioritize this in my life. But we decided to go with Europe because there's a lot of places that she hasn't been. And it's also just a really good place to work from. Good Wi-Fi, easy to get around, easy to navigate, tons of coffee shops or co-working spaces, stuff like that. Good safety, easy for long-term stays where you're going to feel comfortable and be able to enjoy. and great weather during the summer too in certain parts of the continent. But also we were thinking about where we're going to bring him. So when we were thinking about like Southeast Asia, for example, there's some time zone differences. If you're building a business that has team here or clients here, Southeast Asia is a little more difficult. My business is, we have a community, we have online services. So I'm on a good amount of calls still where there's US-based conversations happening, and I don't want to be so far away where that's more difficult. The cost of living there would be great, and same with South America. The time zone factor is good, and the cost of living would be good, but there wasn't really many places where we wanted to spend a really long time where we'd feel super comfortable, and just Europe felt more aligned for that. So the plan right now is we'll be flying into Germany. We're meeting up with some friends in Berlin, and then we're all going to go down to Switzerland. So we have this little pocket where we'll be with friends, and we're trying to do a little bit of like a slower, we call it slow mad, where you're going to do like, several weeks to a month or two in certain places. But one of the factors to figure out, there's really two main constraints here. There's the Schengen visa or Schengen zone, where there's some kind of visa restrictions. So I'll talk about that. And then there's bringing the dog. Okay. So we'll start with the dog. So with Wags, that's our pup. He's a little gem. He's a tiny little guy. So he's like 11 pounds now. He's still a puppy. But to fly overseas with the dog, there's a lot of different restrictions that you have to navigate. Certain airlines don't allow them in business class. I know that's a champagne problem, but it is a real factor because I'm not flying in economy. And so that's one thing to navigate. He is a service dog, and so that helps, but it still doesn't mean that he can get into every country easily. For example, we're starting the trip actually by going to Japan for this ski mastermind that I'm hosting. That's the first trip we're taking as our lease ends. And it's really almost impossible for dogs to get into Japan unless you have like 20 different things. It's just too much. So he's going to stick back for that one. And so we also want to pick places that were easy for him to get in. Certain countries like Bali, it's like nearly impossible to bring in dogs. Australia, New Zealand, very difficult. Japan, very difficult. A lot of islands are really difficult. So in Europe, it's a little easier to bring dogs too. So we wanted to factor that in. Now, with that, we found a great deal on Lufthansa. So I just mentioned in the beginning, this flight is from Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C. over to Munich, Germany. So they do allow dogs in business class without any issues or restrictions. Most of the major U.S. airlines and international carriers that go from the U.S. to foreign countries will allow them in the cabin for business class as long as they're a service animal. So that's not a huge issue, but Lufthansa will allow them even if they're not a service animal. So, but once you're over there are some challenges, like getting him into England is there's some weird restrictions. Again, that island factor where I guess if the island, if the country hasn't had any rabies outbreaks, they're just more strict on dogs, which makes sense. So there's some things to navigate there, but we're being proactive. And I bring that up specifically because many people, just the idea of travel the way that we're doing it is crazy for a lot of people, right? They're like, I would love to do that, but oh my God, that sounds overwhelming. That sounds too confusing, too complex. And for us, the idea of going for our 10 out of 10 life means there's going to be some logistical barriers, some constraints that we have to kind of solve for here to make the outcome happen. But when we're committed for it, it's like a no-brainer. And so that's how we like to approach life. That's why I built a business. That's why I wanted to create a life that has a good amount of freedom. The three main freedom currencies that I consider, that's financial, location, and time. And so right now, location and time are actually the two highest. Financial would probably be the lowest that we're working on right now. But we get to build a business from anywhere. So going to Europe actually doesn't really drive our living expenses up too much. In fact, because I have a travel company, some of the Airbnbs we're staying at will become a write-off, so that's something kind of unique for me. That's a little bit of a rant around how this is all going to work. Now, the Schengen zone is another factor. Part of the reason we're going when we're going is because we have the Japan trip we're already doing. We have some speaking events and stuff we'll be bopping around the U.S. for. And then over the summer, we don't really love being in Austin anyways because it is so unbelievably hot. And we're like, you know what? If we live in a time in human history, in an era where you can build your business online and work from anywhere, I want to take full advantage of those perks. I think it is a disgrace to our ancestors who made all these sacrifices to give us these opportunities to not fully enjoy them. So for me, I'm thinking, I don't want to be in Austin during the summer. Like, I'm okay being here for a little bit, but when there's 100 straight days of 100-degree weather, I'm getting out. I'm not going to be here. You won't find me in Austin. So we already wanted to travel. Now, the thing with Europe is this Schengen zone visa requirement. So basically, you have 90 days out of a rolling 180 days that you can be within the Schengen zone. Now, the Schengen zone is 26 or 32 countries, something like that. Most of the major European countries, which basically means you get visa-free travel once you're in. Okay, so if you fly into Spain and you go from Spain to Italy to Germany, you don't have to, you're free to go without needing visas. You don't have to do passport checks. Like, once you're in that zone, you are good to go. Okay, so this is most of the EU. Now, you can only stay there for 90 days unless you have some other sort of visa. Now, there are a lot of digital nomad visas and work visas and stuff like that we could consider applying for. Spain is a good one. Portugal is another good one. Estonia. I think Malta is really good. So there's ways to do that, but we just decided for this, we're not gonna get involved with that on this trip. So the plan is to do, again, Berlin for a bit with friends, then Switzerland a bit, prioritizing those periods of the trip where friends are going to be there. So we'll be doing that with them. And then the plan from there, we'll probably hit Prague somewhere in there because it's in that area. The plan from there is to go to Paris for at least a few weeks. Bryn absolutely loves Paris. I surprised her on our engagement trip, which was, by the way, an awesome trip. Really epic experience. And it was super fun for me to put this on and just, throw some surprise factors in. I feel like that's a big part of our relationship for me, is this element of surprise with travel for her. Like, I love booking this kind of amazing experience, throwing her off, telling her it's one thing, and then surprising her with something else. And so that video where I break that down will be linked here somewhere, and you can check that out. So Paris is a place that she's always loved. So I'm really excited to go back there for at least a few weeks and hang out. I actually liked it more this time than I had in the past. So, it's a no-brainer place to be. The key there, in my opinion, is two things. Number one, avoiding peak tourist season, and number two, avoiding peak heat season. I've been there in August when it actually gets pretty hot and AC is not super great. It gets more expensive and more crowded. So we're trying to go there towards end of May, early June. We'll see exactly how it lines up. But that would be a little bit before the peak tourist season and before the heat really picks up too. Okay. So middle of the summer in Europe, it gets pretty hot and pretty expensive, big crowds. And so we're trying to bop around and find ways where we can navigate around that. Okay. So that's going to be one place. Second place is Italy. So both Bryn and I are Italian Jews. What are the odds of that? I don't know. We call it a pizza bagel. If you're familiar with pizza bagels, you got the Italian pizza, Jewish bagels, two pizza bagels together. So we got two pizza bagels and a dog bouncing around Europe. So of course we have to go to Italy, and we're probably going to do northern Italy. Since we just got engaged in December, we are planning our wedding, which is also going to be in Italy in 2026. So this parlays well to go check out venues and meet with different, just go see different places we could do it. So probably somewhere in the Dolomites area, or maybe around Lake Maggiore or Lake Garda, in the northern lake region. We may go down to southern Italy too. We're going to map that out, but the plan is to just go enjoy and relax. And we really love that like slower pace of life. And especially with building a business that's US based, I do find I'm actually really productive when I'm in Europe, because that time zone difference is actually an advantage. It's like a nice forcing mechanism to say, hey, if I'm only going to be working while I'm overlapping with the rest of my team for like 2 to 4 hours a day, I better be really effective. And I also get a lot of the morning to do a lot more deep work, content creation, things that require solid blocks of uninterrupted time. The mornings are great for that. There's no one awake. It's just peaceful. I feel like my mind is more at rest. So I'm really excited for that actually on this trip too. So that will be Italy. We'll be enjoying the slower pace of life there. And that will be a place where we get to go see different parts. And that is one of the factors I love about Italy too. So a lot of people will ask, like, if there was one European country that you could live in, what would you pick? I'd say Portugal's up there, but with the Italian roots and just some of the, the culture and the food and history, I think Italy's actually the pick. The lesser known factors that people often overlook, the unbelievable amount of diversity for one small country. It's incredible. I mean, you have unbelievable lakes, ridiculous mountains, the Dolomites, the Alps near northern Milan, towards the French Alps side, where they host the Olympics. Unbelievable. Amazing cities with fashion. You've got incredible food, unbelievable history and architecture, a really strong sense of culture, like a unique vibe. And then obviously I already mentioned it, but the food, astronomically amazing. Plus you've got Tuscany, you've got rolling hills, you've got beautiful countryside, and then you have beaches and islands. So it's got everything. So that's a big reason why Italy is going to be so high on this list. So the other ones we're going to hit, Spain and Portugal are two big ones. We have a good friend of mine, Colin Jurgensen. He's got a pretty cool online business and brand as well. He's become a good friend over the years. Him and his fiance are going to get married in Marbella, Spain, where she's from. Okay, so she's Spanish and her family's over there. So they, like us, decide to host their wedding in Europe, and that'll be in Marbella. And so we're going to spend some days in southern Spain and then drive over to Portugal. Portugal is one of my favorite places, as I already mentioned, but unbelievable beaches, unbelievable weather, really low cost comparatively to a lot of places, at least in the States. Great food. Tons to do. So we'll be bouncing over there, and I really love to surf. And one of the things on my kind of life bucket list is to get good at surfing, which kind of like languages, you need to really be immersed in it for a solid chunk of time to get good. So the plan is to spend a few weeks on the coast of Portugal surfing, just working from there and having fun. Hopefully some friends come over. There's this really cool kind of expat entrepreneur nomad hub in Lisbon. So we'll spend some time there as well and get to meet some of those folks. And I actually have a lot of clients there that are US based business owners that have moved to Lisbon, or, they're just based in Lisbon. It's a great hub for that. Portugal to me is like California in Europe. Similar latitude, similar kind of weather, kind of similar chill atmosphere. You got the amazing beaches, huge coastline. So it's like that. And it's definitely grown in popularity. It's become one of the biggest digital nomad hubs in the world. But relatively speaking, still very affordable and still an awesome place to go. So we're excited for that one. So it's pretty much going to wrap up our 90-day window in Europe. So we only have a few other days. Now, one of the things I'm actually working on right now is hosting a men's retreat in southern Germany. So I'm co-hosting this with one of my good buddies here in Austin, who's a men's coach, really great with coaching in terms of relationships and helping guys connect to their passion, to their career, to their purpose, and having a kind of a deeper dimension to life. So we're going to come together to collab and run a retreat in southern Germany, which I'm really excited about too. We're going to be going to do a whole range of things. There's going to be stuff in the German Alps that we do, some hiking and mountain biking and stuff like that. There's going to be some history that we go see. There's going to be some things like Dachau concentration camps. So not always just the light sides of travel, but also seeing some of the darker, more heavy and intense, but important parts of history, as well as fun things like we're going to go do like a BMW racetrack day too. So that's going to be the men's retreat. I mean, this summer is going to be incredible. I'm just getting so excited as I talk about it. So that'll be that part. And then we're going to wrap up the trip with about a month in the UK. Okay, so this will be England and Scotland as the two main places. And this will be really fun too. August over there, beautiful weather and really long periods of daylight because it's so far north. So we'll be hitting that. We'll probably do the Scottish Highlands. I've never been up there. I've done a bunch of other parts of England and some time in Edinburgh. But really excited to go check this out. We love London. We'll go do some of the countryside. And this is a really cool spot because one of the things that's big on Bryn's heart this year is to write a book. So she's always had this dream of writing a book, and her dream place to do it has been in the Cotswolds in England. So it's these beautiful, kind of small, charming little towns. And so she'll spend some time there. Now, I would say Ireland has a very cool, kind of similar feeling to it. But because Ireland is a part of the Schengen zone and England and Scotland are part of the UK, which is outside of the Schengen zone, we're going to prioritize the England and Scotland portion so we can extend our total stay. Okay. So we'll go down there. And then we are going to go up to Scotland and just hang out and explore there. There's all sorts of cool castles you can stay in and stuff like that. So we'll be doing a mix of Airbnb and point stays. Some of these places, like the castles in Scotland, there's some really good ones you can use on points. Hyatt points in particular are really good for that. Some of the cities we stay in will probably use some points. One of our favorite properties, the Park Hyatt in Paris, will probably hit that. There's a really nice W property in southern Portugal that I really want to check out. But for many of these stays will be Airbnbs, and that's going to be an easier way to actually accrue points. So the way that I'm going to do that from a points and credit card standpoint is, for me, since this is a business expense because we're documenting the journey and it's part of marketing and sharing, our travel recommendations with people, I'll be putting most of the Airbnbs on the Chase and Preferred, which earns 3 points per dollar on travel. So that will cover that. For the hotels, I'll be using a co-branded card or using point redemptions for those. For the airfare, we're definitely using points for this, even though technically I guess I could write that off because it's part of the business expense too. That's one where, I don't want to write off $11,000 worth of airfare. I want to use points. So we're doing that on the way over. On the way back, we'll probably be flying out of London again. So we did fly the Virgin Retreat Suites last time. We'll see what we end up booking for that. And that's going to be the trip. So the only other factor, we have to leave a few days of our 90-day limit open because if we do decide to go back to Europe in the fall to go check out some venues for the wedding, we need to have some days on our passport eligibility, essentially. So that's the adventure ahead. So it starts with Japan, coming back to the States. We got a little gap there with a few weeks, some speaking events. Then we're going over to Germany to fly in. We got Berlin, we got Switzerland, probably Prague. We've got Italy, we've got southern Spain, we've got Portugal, we've got England, we've got Scotland. We've got one hell of an adventure to bring you on. Can't wait to show you behind the scenes how we're going to manage to build businesses while we're traveling. It's a part of the adventure to find a way to make it happen, to share the ride with this guy and create some awesome memories that, quite frankly, we won't get back. So that's a wrap on this video. As I mentioned, if you want to check out the engagement video or I break down that whole experience, you can check that out here. And I'll see you in the next